I'd like to introduce Lynn from the United States, who takes LDN for high antibodies, Hashimotos, and benign tumors. Thank you for joining me, Lynn.
Oh, thank you, Linda. It's really wonderful to have the opportunity to speak with you. You were so kind to correspond with me a little bit more than a year ago when I just was discovering LDN. And you gave me such great insight then, and you were a very strong part of my decision to go ahead and start taking LDN.
Well, I'm pleased you did, and you're doing so well.
Oh, it's miraculous for me, Linda. It's just been amazing, and I really was at the end of my ropes.
Can you tell us your story, what happened to you, how you became so sick?
Yes, I think it was a comedy of errors going on in my body. Lots of different things that all together really caused such a horrible condition. I suffer from Hashimotos. My antibodies were off the Richter scale completely, so horrifically high, and my body was attacking my thyroid, not only my thyroid, but other organs. And I was in constant, just absolute horrible, unbearable pain. I had just gotten married, and the condition really hit just a month or two after I had married, and it just was such a shock that all of that started right after I got married, and so everything got so bad. And what I was going to several different types of doctors, of course, my general doctor, endocrinologists, and pain management doctors, all wanting to help me, of course, but here in the United States, they're part of medical corporations, and the doctors are really encouraged never, ever compound or use compounded or off-label drugs. And as I started to learn a little bit about LDN, and I had gone to 13 different specialists, all saying the same thing to me: we would never prescribe such a drug for you. We absolutely wouldn't. And they started to give me prescriptions for Cymbalta, which was horrific, Lyrica, both for pain, nerve pain, and then of course my thyroid was so out of whack. I learned that the synthetic thyroid medicines that I had been receiving, coupled with my autoimmune issues, I've learned that people with autoimmune don't convert T4 to T3 easily. And so the synthetic thyroid medications were not working, and that was causing a huge amount of trouble and pain, brain fog, inability to think straight, constant chronic pain. And then I had benign tumors that had been removed, which were also, according to the surgeon, attributable to my autoimmune. And my body essentially was attacking its own organs. And so it was all very confusing, but interestingly enough, Linda, it was all cured and remedied by only one thing, and that was the LDN.
Wow. When you first started, did you notice any side effects?
I started the LDN early February last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the doctor that would consult with me by phone. Again, none of the 13 physicians that I had been working with would even consider a off-label drug. They wouldn't. And I also think that their corporations, the medical corporations like Carolina's Medical, told their physicians that they could only deal with the pharmaceutical companies and the well-known pharmaceutical companies. So I had to find someone that would do phone consults, and I found an absolutely astounding doctor. May I tell you the doctor's name, Linda?
You may.
Tamsin Feeney. Dr. Tamsin with a T, T-A-M-Z-O-N, Feeney, F-E-E-N, I believe it's E-Y. And she lives part of the year in Colorado, here in the States, and part of the year in Indianapolis. And she was absolutely a phenomenal doctor. She was, her specialty was in bioidentical hormones, actually, and helping women with many of those hormonal issues. But she also had been helped years ago with LDN, and although she didn't need to have a side phone consulting business, she does the phone consulting as a labor of love. And she does that on the weekends. And she's very, very knowledgeable about LDN, and has been regulating hormonal issues with LDN as well. Nonetheless, she prescribed me the LDN for my fibromyalgia. I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, the benign tumors, autoimmune disease, and Hashimotos. And I must say, I started on 4.5 milligrams, and I was committed to taking it at night because I had learned that the LDN would be very beneficial for me during the nighttime hours when my cells are regenerating. And so I imagined the LDN fairy at night visiting me, and after I took my nightly LDN, and I couldn't believe it, but after 2 or 3 days, I immediately noticed a tremendous difference in the amount of pain that I was in. And again, my pain was so debilitating, I wasn't walking, and I was looking at buying a wheelchair. So not to be dramatic or anything, it was just that instantaneous. Of course, with my weakness and being so sick for so long, my muscles had atrophied, and I was very, very out of shape. So after I had been on the LDN for a number of weeks and was able to use my muscles again, I built up strength. But the LDN helped me in a number of different ways, not just with the pain.
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting because of the amount of brain fog that I had, and I really couldn't. I had no short-term memory, Linda, and I couldn't put complex thoughts together. I had trouble reading, and I would forget where I was at times. God forbid I parked the car in an unfamiliar place. And I just was so cloudy. I immediately, it was probably maybe 3-4 weeks into my LDN treatment, noticing clarity. Not only that, but more energy. More energy than I had had in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, and I'm just going to interject this, that Dr. Feeney, the doctor I was using, was astute enough to know that I more than likely had candida in my system. Have you heard about this, Linda?
Yes.
Okay. And she was astute enough to say and explain to me that the candida could be strengthened by the LDN, so we had to treat the candida as well. And I've learned since then that probably more than 90% of the population has candida, which is a yeast organism in their gut. And so I did take a very basic candida medication for 30 days and watched my diet and watched the sugars, and that was important to do in conjunction with the LDN. Interestingly enough, I was told that a symptom of the LDN might be a lack of, or maybe a touch of insomnia or vivid dreams at night. And I did notice it a little bit, but I take a daily or a nightly dose of melatonin, and I have had no issues whatsoever with sleeping, and no side effects whatsoever from LDN.
Mm-hmm.
But I have continued on the LDN, and I have never missed a night. And I've also gone on to get my husband, who is a retired Air Forceman. He's a retired Master Sergeant. And he was, Lance, my husband, was exposed to large amounts of airplane fuel and helicopter fuel because he was a mechanic. And when I say large amounts, at times he ingested the fuel. That fuel is known now because his job today is helping veterans with their benefits. It's very, very well known here that many veterans are suffering from exposure to these fuels with Parkinson's disease and other neurological disorders. Mm-hmm. And my husband is starting to exhibit the early symptoms and markers in presentation of some neurological difficulties. We don't know yet that it's Parkinson's, but he also suffered a very bad back injury. A part of a large airplane fell on him, and he survived it, but it left his back damaged, and the pain in his neck and in his back, he actually has military disability for. But he's taking the LDN and has been taking it now for, I would say, I want to say 7 months, and he has been experiencing tremendous relief with the pain associated with his disability.
Mm-hmm. And LDN also works well for Parkinson's disease.
Exactly. We have not gotten that diagnosis confirmed yet, but we're actually going to the specialist now for him. Mm-hmm. And another benefit of the LDN, because of his exposure to the airplane fuels and inhaling and through his sinus cavity and sinuses, he suffered and again was disabled for chronic sinus infections. And he has not had a major sinus infection since the day he started LDN.
Wow, that's amazing. And, could I ask you, Lynn, before you started LDN, if you had to rate your quality of life on a score of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would it have been?
Well, the quality of my life was definitely a 2.
Mm-hmm.
I was newlywed and very, very much in love and blessed with a new marriage. But I was too sick to enjoy that time of my life. It happened so suddenly and so quickly. So it went very, very quickly to a 2, and because I was not functioning well at all.
Mm-hmm.
And now my quality of life is a 10. I have my health. I haven't won the lottery, Linda, but I do have my health, and my husband is healthy as he has ever been. I go to Zumba classes and exercise classes. I'm active with my kids. I can take a 5-mile walk if I want to. At 53, I can keep up with my kids pretty well for being a 53-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
The LDN, also during all of this, I want to mention, I hit menopause all at the same time when I started to get sick. And I don't want you to think that I just suddenly came down with the Hashimotos. I had undiagnosed Hashimotos probably for 10 years because I have nothing left of my pretty much all of my thyroid had been destroyed. Little bit of it is left, but it's interesting. The LDN has really helped regulate me through the menopausal symptoms as well, and the hormonal issues, because my family has such a high risk history of cancer. None of the doctors that I go to would even entertain allowing me to have any hormone of any kind. And I really feel that the LDN has helped balance me out in that regard as well. I just thought you'd find that interesting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's probably not the first time you've heard it, though, right?
No, it isn't. And I have been speaking to Dr. Phil Boyle, who uses LDN in his fertility clinic, and he also uses it to help with women's problems as well.
Yes.
Successfully, I should add, yes. So that's...
Yeah. There was an Irish doctor that was a OB gynecological expert that was using LDN for women with hormonal issues and that couldn't get pregnant.
It's the same doctor, Dr. Phil Boyle. He's the Irish doctor.
I had one of the greatest videos I had seen on LDN was by him, and then I was not able to find that video anymore anywhere on the net, and I wish that I had copied it or had a link to it. So I'd love that from you.
Yes, I'll give you some links.
That would be fabulous. But it's interesting that it had helped me so much hormonally, because I'm just balanced. The nuances that go on in everybody independently feels their body differently and feels the things that go on in their body differently. Mm-hmm. And all that I can say is I'm healthy, and I'm happy again. And I'm able to take care of myself and exercise. It was as though I'd been given a new life. Oh boy, am I taking advantage of it now.
Good for you. And what an inspiration you are for other people, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you so much for calling me. It was so wonderful to finally hear your voice and talk to you, because as I said, you were one of the very first people to reach out to me when I had questions. and you were so gracious and so lovely to answer my questions and make me feel important enough, and you gave me your time and your energy, and you were very instrumental, Linda, in my decision to just go ahead and try this absolutely amazing drug. And I thank you so very much.
You're very kind. Thank you.